if you tell a team you're going to be there for 4 years, and then just to say you want to be traded, that team built everything around you, and they brought other players around you, so you owe it to them to stick out your contract. I was like, man, somebody on this panel got to call her out, because that's garbage. Because the teams can do the same thing. If you don't produce, or even if you produce sometimes, they will trade you in a heartbeat. It's the business. That's what it's a business at the end of the day. Wherever job you work at, it's a business. You can get removed. You can get replaced. Draymond is saying, don't castrate the players when they say they want to be traded, and we got to be silent. But when the owners want to trade you, they could just pull you from the game, and now the whole world knows they want to trade you. You know, the only thing I agree with him is James Harden gave it a bad light, because what he did, dogging it from what Draymond said, and we all know James Harden dogged it, he didn't go to work as he should have every day until he was traded. That's the only difference. If you want to be traded, cool. But keep playing until they trade you if you're getting paid for it, because that's your job. That's what I felt. I felt like if they're paying you, you got to report to work. Just like if you want to be traded and they trade you, you got to get paid wherever you're going to. I think James Harden should have gave it his all, even if he wanted to be traded, but let them be known that I want to get out of it. But at the end of the day, he got what he wanted, so it worked out for him. So, congratulations, James Harden.
Zig, what were your initial thoughts after watching Draymond's promo post game interview?
You know me well already, Carl. I'm like one of those people that's always against the establishment. So when I saw Draymond Green sit up there and talk about, the double standard that's taking place, I was definitely for him. Sorry about that. I was definitely for him. It was just kind of out of nowhere. I was wondering, where did it come from? It seemed like it might have been on his mind for a minute, because he just came out of nowhere saying that's what he wanted to talk about. But I definitely agree with him that it's been crazy how the vitriol and how angry certain individuals and fans can be at the players, but nothing is said when the establishments do it themselves. We remember what happened to Anthony Davis when he wanted out of New Orleans, that he was telling them he could play like 1, 2, 3 quarters and then sit him down for the fourth quarter. I mean, it's just ridiculous. You could just either let him stay home and work it out. But like I said, I just commend Draymond Green for what he did. Kudos to him, man. Big ups.
Mr. Ray Jarvis, what are your thoughts? I know you dropped your promo yesterday. So you want to care to elaborate, or what are your thoughts on it?
I think the issue that I have with this whole setup is, we as sports fans, we understand the dynamics of contracts and ownership and player and front offices. We know all of that. But to Draymond's point, I'll expand and say that, why is the professionalism always expected to be from the player's side? You know what I mean? Like, a player can want to be traded. An organization can want to trade a player. But when a player decides that he doesn't want to play anymore, or dog it or loaf it in Harden's, case, right? He's unprofessional. But what about the organizations who are being unprofessional when they don't do the due diligence to get rid of said player and avoid the chaos that comes with a player who wants to be gone? Case in point, Anthony Davis. A lot of us, we spoke about AD getting to LA, and we lived in the chaos of the trading deadline and what happened and what didn't happen, and AD eventually ending up in LA that following summer. But what about Dell Demps and how unprofessional he was in handling business with the Lakers, basically cutting off his nose to spite his face and not doing the deal, knowing full well the player didn't want to be there. We don't talk about the front offices forcing the players to get petty and wear T-shirts like "that's all, folks." You know what I mean? Like, that professionalism has to be on both sides. And because of that unprofessionalism, Dell Demps lost his job. Okay, we don't talk about that part enough. We get so focused on the players as fans because the media always wants to frame it towards the players that we don't think about the front office. That man lost his job because he was unprofessional. Magic Johnson stepped down because he was unprofessional, and there was a lot of smoke and a lot of stuff on Magic's face because of the fact that the players he wanted to trade were still there, and they had to live in that uncomfortable existence, and he didn't get the job done. You know what I mean? All of it because it's unprofessional. Houston was going to take the AD route with James Harden. They were going to try to string him out and do a deal on their time. And because of what happened with AD, this is what cause and effect. People never think about cause and effect. The cause and effect of the AD deal was Harden said, y'all not going to AD me. So now I'm going to make it uncomfortable for y'all to keep me. Sorry if it means that John Wall and Boogie Cousins got to get in their feelings, but if the organization is going to be unprofessional when the player respectfully asks for a trade and went out there and played, I think he got a 50 ball. How great is James Harden to give you an unprofessional 50 ball? You know what I'm saying? In his first game. Do your due diligence as an organization to give the player what they want. As I said yesterday, I think, and especially in the NBA, if we understand as fans, the smart fans at least, understand that this is a whole thing where superstar players get what they want. Organizations know that superstar players get what they want. We need some language in the new CBA. When a superstar player or a player decides of a high cachet that he doesn't want to be there anymore, and or the organization decides that they don't want the player anymore, there needs to be something on paper that says that until we can get a deal done, don't come to the office. You know what I mean? Don't come on the bench. Don't wear a suit. Let's just have the understanding. Let's put it on wax. Is my point.
I want to ask you a question, Ray, because I want to play devil's advocate. I'm all with you. Everything you said, I'm with you. But like, you know, I'm not a media person. I don't want to steal your thunder, call, because you may have this question. So I don't want to steal your
Go
thunder.
for it, sir. It's all good.
But
man.
it just came to my mind. It's like, I feel like the organizations, when they get strongholded, you know, when they start say, I'm not gonna stay here, that's where the problem becomes the negotiations. So if Team A knows that they have to trade a James Harden, and they want to get as much back for James Harden as they can, when they go into these negotiations, like say with Brooklyn, and they say James Harden ain't playing unless he's traded to Brooklyn. So now they know he has the leverage. Brooklyn almost has the leverage. So now Houston doesn't get the best deal possible business-wise. So you know, I just think sometimes media got to do their job, but it's a lot of chatty patties. Like let the business take its place. Like stop getting these fake quotes from these trainers and these secondhand people and saying who's going to say what, who's going to do what, because then it starts to take the value down from the trade. And I think that's what Houston, like you said, Houston was trying to do. They were trying to say, we're not trading him so more teams can bid. And then finally, James Harden was like, you know what? I'm not waiting for your bids. I'm just out. So what do you think about that in terms of like you got to keep the business aspect of it, like let the trades happen, give it time to happen so people can get back what their worth is. James Harden is worth a lot. You got to get that haul back when you give him up.
I mean, the problem with that is because player A says that he wants to go play in New York City or Los Angeles or Miami, whatever big market that's a hot spot in the NBA, right? No other organization is going to do business in good faith because they know that player doesn't want to be there anyway. So the primary organization that controls the player already is dealing with a bad hand because he knows the player wants to go to a specific city. All the other teams involved know that this player wants to go to a specific city. So they're never going to give you the best possible package because they're afraid that if they get this player, he's going to be a rental anyway. This is why I was saying, if we know that this is how the game is played, we have to start dealing with the obvious. There's so much feelings involved. All these millions and billions of dollars. It's so much hurt feelings when a player doesn't want to play there anymore for the fans and the organization. But you knew that already. Yeah, y'all didn't want to act out until it became news because you think James Harden woke up Tuesday and said, I wanted to be traded? The Houston Rockets knew at the end of last season
they knew
James Harden didn't want to be there anymore. And you know what? They felt as though we hold the cards. He has X amount of years left on the deal. We can figure something out. Let's go get him John Wall.
We could change your mind.
Let's go get John Wall. He'll be happy with John Wall. You know what I mean?
When the girl breaks up with you, sometimes the breakup is for real. There ain't no getting back. There ain't no, I don't care. You can't lie and say, baby, I'm sorry. That's it. Nah.
How many times we got to see this play out before we realize this is what it is? The superstar holds the cards. It don't matter about the organization.
So let me ask this question. And you guys know I've been guilty of this in the past where I put a lot of pressure on the players, or I'm very upset and salty at players for making decisions. A lot of the things I'm reading out there, and clearly my perspective has changed over time, and I definitely agree with what Draymond said, but because we all agree, let me put, like Max said, in terms of devil's advocate here, the players try to be as equal as the owners. And a lot of people feel like it's like, you can't be as equal as your employer. For example, I can't be as equal to the deans.
Slavery.
I can't be as equal. So that's what the argument is that the players want equal treatment, but they have to understand they work for an employer. So they're clearly not going to get that. Is that a fair assessment or not? Ziggy, let me start with you.
For me personally, I look at the sports, particularly NBA, it's hard to kind of like compare it so in that particular fashion, you know what I mean, employee, employer or whatever, because at the end of the day, these NBA players, they're still human first. I think we get caught up too much in the fact of looking at these guys as just, hey, they just players. No, these guys are humans. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that's a fair assessment. I disagree with that. It's just a lot of, like you just said, there's a lot of people saying a lot of negative things about this overall. You peep in the story how Charles Barkley is saying that Draymond Green isn't the person to be talking about this. It's just a really weird situation. But just to bring it back to your point, I definitely disagree with that. It's a totally different stage. I don't think you can compare the two.
All right, Coach, can you compare the two? And I heard you say it's like a slavery mentality, but could you compare the two in terms of you're playing for the owner, so you're the employee, so you really have, I guess, no say in the matter? Is that a fair assessment or no, Coach?
No, because like this is what the whole game is, more players to this game, like Jarv was talking about. This is not just player owner. This is agents. This is general manager. This is coaches. You know, there's a lot of players involved. There's a negotiation process between every contract. They don't call it negotiations for a reason. If that was the case, they would just have salaries for every player and say, hey, player, you got to accept this salary. And that's it. So this is not a dictatorship. That's what the sport has become. It's a constant tug of war between who holds the cards. Sometimes the owners hold the cards and nobody cries. Patrick Ewing, what was he doing in Orlando and in Seattle at the end of his career? Why was he there? Why was he in Orlando, Seattle? John Starks, that's my favorite player of all time. Why was he packed up and shipped out after he helped build the culture in New York City? He was a fan favorite because they didn't need him anymore. He served his purpose and they said, you got to go. So now when players say, I don't need you anymore, you served your purpose as the Houston Rockets. I did all I can do for you. You know what I'm saying? AD, I did all I can do for you. I want to go win. It's the end of my career or twilight of my career. I don't want to be here. I gave you good years. Now you're going to give me my walking papers and get back what you could get back. It's no longer I just work for somebody and they hold all the cards. If that was the case, there wouldn't be that word negotiations. There's always negotiations, especially in the NBA world.
Ray, what do you think of that?
Like, just one sentence that we can move on. You can't keep bringing common man issues to billion-dollar conversations, period. All of you regular folks with your 9-to-5s, we are not the same with athletes. As much as we want to live vicariously through them, we are not the same. Your job, you can't do that to your boss because it's not the same. We're not talking millions and billions of dollars. So we got to stop bringing these issues when we talk about players, organizations, salary caps, as coach said, negotiations. This player is a walking business in and of himself. So he cannot be compared to the dude at his job right now watching us talk. He can't.
Quote hold. What he said? I'm not a businessman. I'm a
businessman.
Man.
Common men and billion-dollar business are not the same. Don't take offense. It's just the facts.
So let's ask this question. When Draymond made his comments, who was he exactly pointing it at? Was he talking to the fans? Was he talking to the media?
Talking to you.
Or was he talking to the NBA? He's talking to me.
He's talking to you. Listen,
so again,
listen, another part that we're not talking about is people saying, well, you know, Charles Barkley or some of these guys come in and say, oh, it's this new era. Nah, the media wasn't active in the way that you can just see things play out like we can see it now. We can see everything in real time. If this was 1985, it would take 3 weeks for us to know what James Harden said personally, or he wanted to leave. It wouldn't be able to get out as fast as it's getting out. You have to pick up the newspaper every day to try and find a little blurb that talked about transactions. Remember that blurb that we used to see? Transactions. That's what it used to say, or rumors. Now,
so true.
It's and for you guys, Carl, if you don't have nothing to talk about, you have no job. So you got to keep the story going. You got to keep the constant battle between good and evil and walking papers and stuff like that. So, yeah, you know what I mean? It's the media. He's talking to you, Carl.
Ziggy, is he talking to the media man, or is he talking to the fans? Is he talking to who is he
well,
talking
Carl,
to?
The fans of the media, Carl. The fans are the media.
I don't know. See, that's a gray area, pun intended. That's
Carl, anybody that has a cell phone and a Twitter handle and wants to report news, they're not respected media, but they think they're media. They start creating these blogs and start talking and just creating stuff. Everybody thinks they're media now. And that's a problem as well.
Zig, what are your thoughts here? Who is he specifying to?
I think Max said it best, man. That's straight to the media. That's to everybody out there who's every minute they drop in some type of false news, some fake news that everybody tends to run around with, gets retweeted, gets reposted on Instagram. He's talking to all those individuals. He's letting it be known that, hey, you guys got to start giving us the players that same treatment that you're giving these owners, because it's crazy. Not to give away the whole video that Jarv posted, but that the division.
That's fine. Give it away.
Nah, they gotta go watch that. You gotta.
I'm like, yo, the visuals. They gave it away. You know what I'm saying? You had fans out here burning Kyrie Irving jersey, burning Kevin Durant's jersey, burning LeBron's jersey, and no one's saying anything about these owners. That Will Demp's comparison, that example that you brought up was spot on. You know, that was horrible. It's just it's just awful. But he's definitely talking to the fans and the media, man.